Yes, let us welcome now Imelda Francisca, Marketing Director OCBD, Alia Amitra, Founder Tinkerlust and Stellar Women, Dewi Gonta, President Director Java Festival Production, Teresa Wibowo, CEO Ruparupa.com, Kawan Lama Group, and Sinta Danuardoyo, Founder Bubu.com. The session is yours, Anita.
Oke, thank you Mbak Alin. Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Selamat datang. Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to Alumni Summit, the first one indeed, 2021. And this afternoon we are delighted to be speaking about the topic of women entrepreneurship. Yeah. So I have here 5 beautiful ladies. Ya. Ayo santai, kita ngobrol santai ya teman-teman ya, gitu supaya nggak terlalu kaku ya. Tadi juga kita udah sempat ketawa ketiwi. So let me introduce each one of you first. I'll start with Mbak Teresa Wibowo. Mbak Teresa graduated from USC, majoring in marketing and entrepreneurship, and then she continued her studies with executive MBA from Global Asia. She is now founder and CEO to Ruparupa.com, and she formerly worked for Leo Burnett Indonesia Advertising Agency and worked for some retail businesses back in Santa Monica. And Mbak Teresa also is a recipient of the 2019 Asia's Power Business Women by Majalah Forbes Indonesia. So welcome, Mbak Teresa.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Okay, good. Okay, my second guest here today is Mbak Dewi Gonta. Mbak Dewi Gonta earned both her bachelor and her master's degree from Boston University. And she is now President Director of Java Festival Production, also Commissioner to PT Rantai Oksigen Indonesia, which is a carbon emission mitigation company. She had founded PT Trimitra Adibusana back in 2001, which is an imported fashion merchandise from the US and Australia. And she was former marketing director for PT Jaring Data Interaktif, which is cikal bakalnya First Media ya, kalau nggak salah ya, Mbak Dewi ya, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and you also worked for Datacom Asia. So welcome, Mbak Dewi.
Hello, thank you, Manita, for the introduction.
Okay. And my third guest today is Mbak Imelda Francisca. Mbak Imelda graduated from Ohio State University, majoring in psychology. Oh, sorry, you're Baka ya. You're Baka. Waktu itu berantem sama ASU ya, sama Sandabo. And she is now CMO or Chief Marketing Officer for PT Olympic Bangun Persada, which is a property developer, a one central business district in the heart of Bogor. Started construction back in 2015. And she is also former TV anchor for RCTI and Net TV and former Miss Indonesia. So yeah, back in 2005, yeah, Mbak Imelda, and you also had written 2 motivational books. So welcome, Mbak Imelda.
Yes, hi, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Yang nomor 4, the fourth one, we have Mbak Sinta Danuardoyo. Hi, Mbak Sinta. Mbak Sinta graduated from the University of Oregon, majoring in architecture, and then she pursued with her MBA from Portland State University. She is now founder and CEO of Bubu.com, which she founded back in 1996. Wow, so that was 25 years ago, yeah? Your baby is a grown-up already. Yeah, and you are also head of committee for the research and technology and digital sectors at the Kadin, yeah, Kamar Dagang Indonesia. You also initiated the Angel EQ Network back in 2015 with 15 other members to boost the entrepreneurial ecosystem through education, active engagement, and financial backup for small startups. You were also recipient of the 2013 Inspiring Women Honor Roll by Majalah Forbes Indonesia and back in 1999, Most Powerful Women by Globe Asia. So welcome, Mbak Shinta.
So much. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, we have, where's Mbak Alia? Oh, there you go. Mbak Alia Cakra Amijaya. Hi, Mbak Alia. Mbak Alia earned her bachelor and master's degree from the University of Maryland, College Park. And she is now co-founder as well as sales and external partnership director for Stellar Women. Yeah, that is an empowering community for Indonesian entrepreneurs. And you have reached up to or ongoing more than 10,000 active members within a year. So that deserves an applaud, yeah. And you are also co-founder and COO, I'm sorry, for Tinkerlust, which you founded back in 2015, and that is a pre-loved fashion marketplace. You are also still consultant for Rasamasa.com, and you co-founded the Momentum Global Partners, which is a business consultancy company, and worked for JP Morgan for 5 years and Citibank Indonesia for about 2 years. Yeah. So
Yes.
welcome, Mbak Alia.
Thank you, Manita.
Okay, now we have all complete. Yes, I have introduced every one of you. So today, as mentioned before, we are going to talk about women entrepreneurship, yeah, which is very exciting, a very exciting topic for all of us. As we all know, the economy of the world has been upside down ever since there's this pandemic, like a never-ending pandemic. Yeah, there's gelombang 1, gelombang 2, gelombang 3, and it seems that we will be living with this pandemic for the rest of our lives. So we just have to cope with it. And of course, UMKM, or a small medium enterprise industry, plays an important role in uplifting and improving the economy of a nation. And we can see that the contribution of UMKM in Indonesia reached up to about 61%. So it means there is still opportunity for us to upgrowth even further within this industry. And of course the government atau pemerintah telah membantu banyak sekali untuk khususnya selama pandemi ini untuk meringankan pendanaan terhadap UMKM gitu ya. So sayangnya tapi ya dari 65 juta unit UMKM baru 34% yang dijalankan oleh wanita gitu, sehingga rasanya kok peranan wanita sepertinya masih banyak nih yang bisa kita gali gitu ya, yang kita bisa explore lebih dalam, dan mungkin mudah-mudahan melalui today's session, hopefully we can inspire more women to become entrepreneurs. We can motivate them and we can have them jumpstart in whatever passion they have already in mind. Yeah, sometimes it just needs a little push. Mudah-mudahan sesi kita hari ini bisa melakukan itu untuk teman-teman yang juga mempunyai passion untuk to become a women entrepreneur. Okay, so the flow is very casual, so I will probably just ask a few questions and then have you answer to the question, and then just have a casual discussion among us gitu ya. Mungkin saya pengen tanya pertama nih ke Mbak Alia gitu, if you don't mind ya, you get the first pick of the question ya. So because when I see your CV, kan berangkat dari bankers, you were working at Citibank and JP Morgan, and then suddenly in 2015 you decided to become an entrepreneur. What motivated you at that time to become an entrepreneur and run your own business?
Okay, thank you Manita pertanyaannya. So I think waktu tahun 2015 itu setelah 10 tahun ya aku bekerja di corporate itu, I saw a lot of opportunities juga gitu yang di luar ini banyak banget mulai bermunculan startup gitu, dan digital marketing itu makin growing gitu loh. A lot of big businesses, especially di consumer goods itu mulai banyak menggunakan digital marketing. I've been in corporate tuh di benar-benar di bagian corporate-nya, so I handle big corporation gitu, where the product itself mungkin nggak berhubungan langsung dengan consumers gitu loh, so it's always intriguing gitu loh buat aku untuk belajar something yang langsung relatable dengan consumer. So waktu itu tuh 2015 karena bermunculan dan around me itu teman-teman aku juga mulai banyak yang into di digital marketing atau mempunyai perusahaan sendiri. It really intriguing itu buat aku. Aku sebenarnya pengen belajar tadinya tuh digital marketing, what's about it gitu, dan kenapa it's very fast pace gitu, perubahannya tuh cepet banget gitu. So that's something yang sebenarnya aku pengen pelajarin. That's why I help small company and help with their learn about their digital marketing itu. Tapi ketika udah masuk ke situ, then ngelihat opportunity untuk have your own ideas and implement itu gitu loh, dan build your own vision. Itu benar-benar ngebuat aku bersemangat untuk, oh you know what, I can really be creative and have my own product and have other people to merasakan solusi yang memang aku pengen tawarkan gitu loh. That's why di 2015 itu I started small gitu loh, dan benar-benar don't have any kayak pemikiran yang ini akan menjadi sesuatu yang besar, tapi I feel like kayak I have a problem in my life yang jadi berguna gitu ya untuk orang masyarakat banyak gitu. That's why I jump into startup gitu dan have my own company. It was scary gitu loh, karena I don't know about the future waktu itu, tapi ya udah dijalanin, and here I am now.
Wow ya. Tapi saat itu kalau nggak salah langsung bangun Momentum Global Partners dulu ya?
Ya benar,
gitu
buat
ya?
Momentum dulu. Jadi sebenarnya even waktu di pertama buat itu, something yang aku buat pun is not something yang even I have right now gitu loh. Jadinya baru mulai aja tuh udah ada jatuh bangunnya udah mulai berasa gitu.
Jadi itu jadi bridgingnya ya, untuk memberanikan diri untuk trial and error-nya di situ mungkin ya. Okay, alright, good. Thank you Mbak Alia. And then I also would like to hear from Mbak Sinta, karena Mbak Sinta kalau saya lihat right after college, and then you went straight to opening your own business gitu ya, berani banget gitu kan. So itu gimana tuh waktu itu saat itu Mbak Sinta?
Sebetulnya aku sempat kerja dulu sih. I work at a management consultant company for about 1.5 years. Memang nggak lama, karena aku ingat banget tuh setiap abis pulang kantor tuh I would run in front of my computer and creating website. Jadi in a way I kind of fell in love with the internet itu dari pas ngambil S2. Karena pas lagi ambil S2 itu saya kerja di computer lab. That's where I actually learned about internet, is because I was working at a computer lab. Ambil my master degree. Jadi nah, waktu pulang ke Indonesia, kerja dulu untuk sebuah consultant management company gitu. Tapi saya ingat tuh setiap pulang kantor, like I would go straight to the computer and create websites. So I realized I fell in love with the internet, in love with creating website. So beraniin diri di tahun 96 itu bikin bubu.com yang kita start as a web design company, karena memang belum ada apa-apa tahun 96. So it's just a web design company. We create website for other companies, and of course it was tough because 96 nggak semua orang ngerti website itu apa, boro-boro website internet aja belum tentu orang ngerti kan ya.
Betul.
So we were educating a lot, so we educate people about what internet is, terus baru kita menjelaskan produk kita, which is a website. But because it become my passion and I fell in love dengan digital, dengan internet, we go through all the hard time, it's fine. Let's do it. And here I am 25 years later.
So the computer lab had a huge impact on your life, yeah?
Definitely.
Yes. Okay. See, we'll never know where we get our inspirations from, ya kadang-kadang.
Kita kan juga awalnya nggak tahu, because I was an architect. But yeah, I was like in 5 years, my bachelor degree was in architecture. Terus tiba-tiba pengen ngambil bisnis. Nah di situ sih jadi kayak, and I never did architecture in terms of working as an architect. I did like some freelancing, tapi nggak pernah like. So yeah, we never know. But you know,
It's the
I'm so in
design
love with
aspect,
it.
yeah. It's a designer's aspect that you
Yes,
probably have
designer
in your,
aspect,
yeah.
ya betul
yeah.
betul.
Yeah, okay. Well, tapi terus jatuh bangunnya, and then how do you, kan biasanya tuh kalau misalnya ya namanya kita memulai sesuatu, of course we anticipate akan ada jatuh bangun gitu ya, tapi biasanya kan oke, jatuh bangun lagi, jatuh bangun lagi. On the third fall biasanya udah gini, udahlah, what the heck, let me just work for someone else gitu. Nah, apa yang kira-kira membuat kalian masih terus pursue your dream gitu loh, masih tetap tekun, tetap persistent in pursuing the dream?
You want me to answer that or?
You can go ahead and start, yeah.
Okay, so basically when we started itu benar-benar susah banget, sulit banget, nyari orang juga susah karena belum banyak yang ngerti internet. But I think you know, I always tell, because now I mentor a lot of startups, jadi selalu kasih masukan, kasih advice itu like, is this your passion that you're doing gitu.
Yeah.
Karena kalau memang itu your passion, mau jatuh kayak apapun, at the end of the day you wanna get up and do it again. Itu sih salah satunya why you know we can stay where we are right now is because we're doing our passion.
Ya. Mungkin kalau saya ngelihatnya lebih kayak when you know your purpose in life, that as if that is my purpose, this is what I'm here for gitu ya. Jadi mungkin kita lebih tekun dan lebih mau untuk jatuh bangun ya gitu ya. Okay, good. Thank you Mbak Sinta. Okay, now kira-kira nih mungkin bisa dengan Mbak Dewi atau Mbak Imelda atau Mbak Teresa. How do you think your education has impacted or has benefited you in terms of your success in your career or where you are today gitu? Ya, siapa kira-kira? Mungkin Mbak Dewi? Do you want to start, Mbak Dewi?
Bisa Mbak. I think way back then agak beda ya cara kita edukasinya. Unlike kids nowadays, kalau kids nowadays they think very international. Pada zaman itu tidak seperti itu. So I think being able to go abroad and come back with a little bit more confidence. Dulu kayaknya lebih malu di depan orang, a bit less confident. Pada saat kita SMA dan kalau sekolah SMA-nya adalah the conventional SMA gitu kan, most of the time you're requested to memorize and not necessarily so much of presentations. Jadi kita nggak terbiasa depan banyak orang gitu kan, sehingga being abroad, we were somewhat forced to do all that. Jadi pada saat kita kembali untuk bekerja and having to present a lot of different stuff in front of a lot of people tuh jadi jauh lebih percaya diri. And we see, I think, us as being equal to or with the people that we present to, rather than being shy and you know, sometimes sitting away from everybody else. And being away, I think, from my parents, jadi jauh lebih independent. Living at home is always convenient. Mom and dad is always at home. Kayak kalau udah susah tinggal nanya gitu kan di kamar sebelah. Begitu di sana tiba-tiba kita harus tanggung jawab sama diri sendiri. So also that
beresin rumah sendiri.
Beresin rumah sendiri. Bayar bond sendiri. Kalau dulu kan nggak tahu cara bayar air gitu contohnya. Very simple stuff. Cuman akhirnya pada saat kita praktekin di pekerjaan itu semua sudah bisa kita jalankan dengan mencoba sendiri gitu. Instead of being dependent on others in many ways. I think to be able to somewhat create your own network juga karena sekolah di luar, bringing it back to Jakarta when I came back itu juga lumayan ngebantu. Walaupun teman-teman yang di sini tetap temenan, otomatis karena kita, you know, you have an extension of friends gitu kan. Pada saat sekolah itu juga membuat kita jadi cukup lebar networknya. I think that's you know how I see the benefit of going to school abroad.
Going to abroad ya. Thank you Mbak Dewi. Ya, it's interesting karena memang kadang-kadang kalau belum pernah keluar rumah tuh kayaknya, kita sekolah di luar gitu ya, dipikir it's all menyenangkan gitu ya. Tapi wait until when it comes to laundry day ya, then you have to wash your own things. Kalau Mbak Imel dan Mbak Teresa gimana? Siapa yang mau mulai? Silahkan. Mbak Email mungkin?
Boleh. Um, Mungkin kalau untuk saya, for me, it was sort of like a personal enlightenment journey ya for me to go to the States. Karena I actually write about it gitu.
Yeah.
I read a book about it because during the teenage years, aku tuh actually I have eating disorder. Jadi ada anorexia, bulimia, which I didn't even know gitu. Karena waktu di Indonesia, it's very taboo to really like talk about it that you're experiencing those problems gitu. Dan waktu saya kuliah ke Amerika, I think those are the times when akhirnya I know I was facing personal problems, especially with my health and everything. And then lucky enough, I found a professor dan makanya aku mungkin masuk jadi di psychology, become like a pasien berjalan ya di sana. So di sana I joined a psychology program there, and that's where I love about psychology because then I get to learn that people's mindset, people's upbringing, semuanya itu it's very related on how you think, how you see your future, and that's where I do a lot of self-healing. And di sana juga akhirnya I found myself, I get a lot of confidence, I challenge myself a lot. And tadi juga Mbak Dewi bilang yang tadinya very shy, and then I didn't even want to speak in front of a lot of people. I took a lot of speaking classes gitu, and then we got a very broad networking, friends coming from a lot of countries gitu. Those are most of the benefits. Dan dari situ, I think I was at first mungkin I thought I was just gonna go to school, come back to Indonesia, get married, those typical thinking of women gitu ya. But and then here I am ya. Jadi I think it kind of like opened my mind. It broadens up my perspective about life, challenge me, and give me a lot of courage to try new things and do a lot of crazy things with my life too.
Okay, so challenge and confidence level, and then you discover your true self by going abroad. Okay, dan kebetulan juga ngambil psychology lagi ya tadi ya.
Yeah, psychology, and I did a minor in marketing too. So
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mbak Email. Mbak Teresa, what about from your perspective?
Thank you. Dewi and Imelda have already said all the nicest angle of going abroad. Of course,
because you went to China as well, right? You went to Fudan.
Yeah, first? I did. Dari pengalaman saya sih, I've been away since secondary school. Jadi dari SMP saya sekolah di Singapura, terus habis itu finally ke US, and then China. From my experience, yes, it was like really independent. Tapi at the same time, it teaches me to live outside the bubble. I didn't realize about that until I meet a lot of been exposed to people from different walks of life, different nationalities, gitu ya. Terus di Jakarta, I would never dream about going to school in a bus, but I have to do that in Singapore, gitu ya. Jadi things like that actually makes you like more open about things in life. And like what Imelda said, dulu pikirnya ya abis lulus kuliah, and then balik mungkin kerja sama bokap terus begitu. So udah get married, live happily ever after. Terus tapi but being there, I learned about entrepreneurship and all that. That actually motivates me to, I want to start my own business. And having finally started my own business, I realized that I don't think I can work with anybody else. and I think also being away actually expands a lot of network. That is why waktu milih sekolah, especially my dad asked, okay, what do you want to study? My dad tuh bukan anak kuliahan gitu, bukan anak sekolah even. Dia nggak peduli pendidikan. Terus udah gitu, jadi dia, kayak pilih aja deh sekolah yang di Amerika, yang networknya paling bagus. The first thing that came to my mind was like USC, Trojan Pride. Terus udah gitu, ya udah skills gitu aja gitu. Terus I'm like, okay. Terus gitu, I got accepted, and he's really correct though. I think the alumni network really is the first where you learn about things that you want to learn, the mentorships and connections itu penting banget.
Ya. Nah, while we're on that note, karena kan Mbak Teresa dan Mbak Dewi, both of you kind of have a big name of your parents. You're bearing the big names of your parents. How do you, dan tentunya kalian sekarang juga sudah menjalaninya, tentu kalian juga pengen membuktikan bahwa no, this is my thing gitu ya. Bagaimana gitu? How do you manage to not get away from the family name, but to be able to really own what you're doing now? Mbak Dewi mungkin, baru nanti kita kembali lagi ke Teresa.
Not easy at all. No. I mean, obviously my father is a very strong character. He's built his name throughout his many years of doing different stuff. So bahkan pas ngerjain Java Jazz, I started doing Java Jazz because of my father. So when I joined, I would say maybe the first 7 years, it was all about, she's just a daughter, let's just follow what she wants because she's the daughter. It's, the whole time like that, but I think throughout those years, I've proven myself that, I work and I work hard and I'm very committed to what I do. Akhirnya mereka sudah bisa menganggap saya adalah saya. Gitu. But it took
just 7 years, that's a long time.
It was a very long, challenging years. Karena bahkan because we do work together, at the time he was still very much involved in, giving ideas and what have you for the festival, right? Jadi sering banget kita bicara, lalu if they disagree with me, they'll go to him, and get that approval. And many times, kayak kalau misalnya, when we want to meet with sponsors, for example, it's very, it was kind of difficult to just, write a letter and say my name. So that also took many years before people started accepting, the fact that I wanted their time without having my father in the meeting. Bahwa I need to present that this is a thing that we do. It took a while. And I think at some point in time, my father played a big role in how people accepted me juga. Jadi akhirnya lama-lama dia pun menyatakan bahwa this is not my thing. This is Dewi's thing. She's doing it by herself. So by doing so, akhirnya orang juga bisa ngeliat bahwa memang, day-to-day kind of thing, memang dia saat ini sudah tidak lagi involved. But still very much, ideas of artists and all that. Kan karena kita ngerjain Java Jazz. But it was not easy. But I'm here, after 16 years, it's much better now.
Okay. Wow, 7 years, the good thing is that you're quite persistent as well, and then you stayed.
Harus, because I love what I do. I mean, this is my passion, right? I mean, music has always been a part of the family dari kita SD. So doing this is, for me, it's like hobby and work at the same time. So
Oh, nice. That's the best. And for you, Teresa, how did you manage to jangan sampai bokapnya ini gitu, males ya, sementara kita udah kerja keras, usaha gitu. How do you manage countering those comments?
Sering banget ya. Kalau misalnya we did, I think if I awal-awal if I do good, people will say, lihat dong bapaknya. Terus kalau misalnya we do bad, they will also say the same thing. Iyalah anak bos nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain. And it can never be good enough for it to do anything. So in the end, you just, time will tell actually. You just put in good work. People will start seeing you, who you actually are. Terus udah gitu, I guess untungnya di Kawan Lama Group kita cukup profesional ya. Jadi saya masuk juga setelah ini masuk juga kecemplung. Sebenarnya saya masih mau kerja jadi anak agensi gitu. So, and I was actually in mid-career trying to move into a client side, dari agency ke client side. Terus my after discussing it with my dad, he's like, hey, ini ada lowongan nih. And then I said, okay, I'll give it 3 years because it's about membership, about CRM. I love working with customers. Terus yaudah, 3 years turns to 11 years now. And I think that I got my dream when I start doing Rupa-Rupa. Sebelumnya kan di marketing, under a big corporation, and I finally start Rupa-Rupa from scratch. Although waktu mulai itu saya sangat berharap, aduh kayaknya mendingan bikin e-commerce baru aja deh outside the group gitu ya. Agak banyak penyesalan tuh di awal-awal kenapa bikin. Because we are a very much a traditional company. It's a 65-year-old in the industrial, plus 25-year-old in retail. Ngomong e-commerce tuh kayak ngomong, bahkan di internal tuh bilangnya, ini orang langit sama orang bumi. We get a lot of pushbacks because there's a lot of different things, business process yang harus kita rubah. Jadi I think my role here is not really entrepreneur waktu awal, tapi itu lebih kayak
convincing others.
So I think psychology would be more yang lebih penting di situ. But I think we're good thanks to COVID now. Everything is convinced, and I think it's really only through time and that people will see what if you've put in a good work or not.
Consistency juga ya, akhirnya mereka melihat bahwa you guys are really doing the work yourself ya. Of course you get the benefit, but you get the privilege, but of course pembuktiannya menjadi lebih penting gitu. Nah, being a woman kan kita nih challenge-nya nggak ada habisnya ya. Not to mention ini anaknya siapa atau apa gitu ya. Tapi being a woman by itself aja sebenarnya it's quite a challenge, especially kalian beberapa dari kalian are going into technology, dan teknologi in a way quote unquote seperti dunianya laki-laki gitu kan ya. Music juga mungkin masih in a way dunianya laki-laki, property mungkin masih bisa ada perempuannya gitu ya, karena harus ada women's touch gitu biasanya kalau di property. Tapi kan being a woman itself itu ada challenge-nya juga, pose some challenges. Nah, before we go talk about the challenges, I would like to actually look at it from a different perspective. Value apa kira-kira kita sebagai perempuan nih that we can actually give or contribute compared to men gitu, compared to men in an entrepreneurship aspect gitu. Mungkin Mbak Alia bisa ini karena you have your stellar ini ya. And then tentunya di situ digabungkan semuanya, it's a community about women entrepreneurs. So maybe apa kira-kira value yang kita sebagai perempuan miliki yang in a way agak susah nih ya ditandingi sama yang laki, karena boleh dibilang masih lah diskriminasi gender masih ada sedikit walaupun sudah getting better and better hopefully.
Iya, kalau mungkin dari pengalaman aku gitu ya, apa ya yang membuat perempuan sama laki berbeda itu number one, I think multitasking kali ya kalau aku ngelihat gitu loh. Aku merasa women yang nggak tahu dibandingin suami aku atau mungkin sekeliling aku gitu loh, pria itu multitasking ya susah banget. Sedangkan perempuan ya udah ngurus anak, ngurus rumah juga, kerja juga, weekend juggle ya udah biasa aja gitu loh. And it's like apa ya udah biasa gitu. So
makanya kita yang melahirkan ya, kalau laki-laki suruh melahirkan meninggal kayak
laki-laki sakit aja, ini bukan nih penontonnya pasti ada laki-laki, tapi kayak laki-laki aja kalau sakit aja ya udah.
Gak apa-apa, mereka tidak tahu. Kita boleh ngomong seenaknya.
Kalau perempuan nih kayaknya sakit ya tetap aja harus jalan karena ya nggak bisa gerak lah gitu. So I feel like when I become a leader juga, karena ketika aku ya have my own company, I've never been leader of kayak lebih dari sekarang ini ada tim aku bisa 80 orang, ya nggak pernah aku punya manage seperti itu gitu. Tapi I think I'm used to gitu loh, maybe dari pendidikan aku dulu juga gitu loh, atau bawaan dari keluarga aku juga, I'm used to handling so many things at the same time gitu loh. So I think being an entrepreneur ya juga itu gitu loh, you need to juggle a lot of different thing and you need to learn a lot of different thing at the same time gitu loh. Ya jadi CEO ya itu tuh jadi customer service juga, jadi orang operation juga, jadi orang marketing, everything you need to be able to handle lah gitu. So that's one thing gitu loh. Kedua juga maybe touch-nya nggak tahu ya, kalau aku juga mungkin there are some things yang men are good juga gitu, tapi mungkin as a female, we try to be a good listener juga gitu loh. I really try to understand the problems kayak my employee, my teams gitu loh. Nah kebetulan tuh tim aku baik itu di Tinkerlast atau baik pun itu di Stellar, ini bukan maksudnya sexism tapi 90% tuh perempuan gitu loh. So it's really kayak a team yang solid banget and we really have fun gitu kayak sebagai apa ya, the whole team gitu perempuan. Jadi try to listen their problems juga, karena menurut aku jadi perempuan itu tuh baik itu udah menikah atau belum pun tuh banyak banget isu-isu yang kita tuh sebenarnya as a women tuh juga bisa saling solve gitu and saling empower gitu loh. That's why dari kelas aku buat Stellar itu cause I wanna talk to other entrepreneurs gitu loh and really wanna hear their issues and how we can solve it as a women gitu, sesama perempuan lah.
Ya. Tapi memang berdasarkan research juga memang terbukti bahwa lebih dari 65% women entrepreneurs they tend to hire women.
Iya.
Yeah, so women empowers women, so that's good.
Terus itu aku juga merasa itu jauh lebih menyenangkan karena the problem that we solve gitu loh, dari baik itu Tinkerlast maupun itu Stellar is women gitu loh. Jadi kita merasa we understand the issue and we know how to solve it juga gitu. We need kayak we know lah how to do it.
Ya. Nah Mbak Shinta waktu itu kan tahun 96 nih, back in 1996 ya, perempuan sama internet kayaknya belum nyambung saat itu ya. Kayaknya perempuan tuh dianggapnya gaptek banget gitu. Saat itu gimana terus tiba-tiba ada figur perempuan di antara para cocowokan gitu. And then how was that? How was your experience on that back then?
Sebenarnya it was more like stereotyping kan. Kalau di dunia teknologi pasti cowok nih. Jadi like one of my experience was kita bikin pameran di JCC, terus ada boothnya, and then so there's ada nih kalau nggak salah tuh tamu-tamu dari Hong Kong tuh dari Australia aku lupa. Terus mereka nanya kebetulan aku lagi di situ, terus they ask me like, can I meet your CEO? So I just, excuse me. So I just said, yes, can I help you? Right? That's how I answered. It's like, yeah, we would love to meet your CEO. Like,
And then
so it was more like stereotyping, but at the end of the day, when they realized that I was the CEO, and in a way we have to kind of prove ourselves, before they say, okay, you're good or whatever. We know, like, so in the beginning probably you kind of have to prove yourself just because of the stereotypes. But I didn't really felt any like discrimination or anything. It was more like the stereotyping for my part of the story.
Okay, alright. Kalau untuk Mbak Imelda, kita udah tahu lah, we all have children. How do you juggle then? How do you balance about between work, between you as a CMO in the office, and then as a mother and as a wife? How do you juggle with all that roles?
Happy hours. Of course, it's crazy. Yeah, sometimes. I have a baby who is only 16 months.
Oh.
And, I had a COVID baby, so I still remember.
Jadi udah secantik ini loh, habis melahirkan, canggih banget ya.
This is just the face. So I remember waktu itu I just got back from the hospital and I have to conduct meetings like 2 weeks after I give birth, so I still have to do a lot of Zoom meetings with pumping session or still breastfeeding my baby. So it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, mungkin what keeps me really going is the gratitude I have ya gitu, bahwa all this come to me as an opportunity, all this come to me as a given chance that I can grow, and people are counting on me gitu as a leader to also lead them in the company. So whatever obstacle that I'm facing, I have to sometimes just really look at from the gratitude positive side gitu, karena kalau enggak you can break down gitu, karena with all the challenges, apalagi waktu COVID in property gitu kan, semuanya mau jualan nggak bisa, mau buka pameran nggak bisa, and then dengan di property itu kan kalau konstruksi udah jalan itu money runs like crazy gitu. So at that time we have to think strategically. That's when I go a lot to learn about digital marketing. My 2 a.m. pumping session is also for my session learning about digital marketing gitu. It's crazy gitu, tapi aku grateful dengan hasilnya gitu, karena setelah aku masuk ke digital marketing from my property gitu, dan juga ada insentif pemerintah dari free PPN untuk itu, kita punya target sales yang harusnya misalnya hanya 80, at that time kita bisa sampai 160 gitu. So it's really mind blowing gitu. And then kita punya sales yang tadinya majority 80% itu dari walk-in customers atau dari tamu janji gitu. We got it from digital marketing. So it's really being a mother, having a project which is quite huge gitu. It's challenging, can be sometimes nerve-wracking, tapi if we have a proper mindset gitu ya, jadi satu kayak I would say like a polar kayak center, which is your gratitude, then that's where you start. Itu I think then you can work your ways out. Karena being an entrepreneur, I think is really about obstacle management gitu kan, because when you go to the office, when you go to meet your team, you don't just smile. Oh, today is good. Pasti hari ini masalahnya apa gitu kan? Hari ini masalahnya apa yang harus kita selesaikan? But it's great in a sense that it challenged me to always think ahead and also to always be a problem solver gitu. And with a great support system dari tim yang ada saat ini, we have like 80 people working under us. It's mereka dengan role-nya masing-masing. One of the key points being a leader is really just to support, monitor, and be the toughest one in the room when things really get rocky and rough.
Kan there's a saying, the great leader, they have to be tender enough to cry, they have to be strong enough to uphold all the problems ya. Kayaknya harus jadi Superman semua gitu sepertinya ya. So challenges apa mungkin yang dirasa paling berat dalam perjalanan hidup teman-teman nih sampai until where you are today gitu ya? Challenges apa yang dirasa yang paling challenging, and how do you counter? Kalau tadi Mbak Imelda mungkin lebih balikin ke medianya yaitu gratitude gitu ya. Kalau yang lain, teman-teman yang lain mungkin siapa yang mau? Anyone? Mbak Dewi boleh? Challenge terbesar yang dirasa yang paling yang sangat signifikan sih selama perjalanan dalam membangun Java Festival Production, for example. Masih di mute, Mbak.
Sorry. So I think the continuous challenge of the company. I mean, it's not a one-off challenge kind of thing. Kita ini kan, for me personally, it's right bahwa industri saya sebagai promotor musik is definitely dominated by men. That's one, right? So you have to work with a lot of men, which is fine now after so many years of doing it, right? But as a festival, I think the challenge is to always keep track of what everybody else is doing, not just in Indonesia. Karena kan kalau di kita ini persaingannya adalah orang datang ke Indonesia menonton acara kita, atau orang pergi ke Singapura atau ke Bangkok atau ke tempat lain kan gitu ya, atau ke Australia. And now it's very easy for people to go travel abroad. You know, ini kondisi sebelum pandemi tentunya ya, gitu. Dengan begitu, the challenge is to continue to improve, right, with the infrastructure that is available here in Indonesia. Compared to, for example, I'm picking, negara tetangga lah. Everything is automated. Here, not everything is automated when we talk about construction for events, gitu. Jadi ini terus kita kembangin supaya kita skalanya bisa sama dengan skala international events, gitu. Because when the international acts come in, they expect a certain standard. That's being done, especially on constructions of staging and everything else, right? Nah, kayak begini nih kita harus improve terus, gitu, dengan yang memang ada di sini atau bekerja sama dengan vendor-vendor kita sering pakai, men-challenge mereka untuk memproduksi alat-alat itu supaya kita bisa bersaing dan mengadakan barang-barang seperti yang diminta oleh international acts ini, gitu. Kalau secara musikalitas, I think my challenge is to always keep track of what's happening. So having teenagers or having, young kids and young nieces itu juga lumayan ngebantu. Karena kita harus ngikutin terus perkembangan musiknya, which continues to change. Dan referensi kita sekarang tuh kan udah bukan radio ya, referensi kita adalah whatever is available online. Sehingga dia juga secara musik tuh lebar gitu. And I think personally, my challenge is to, being a single mother and all, the challenge is to divide my time for work, my me time, and
itu yang seringkali dilupain ya.
Yeah, I think sebelum anak-anak berangkat, me time was not so important for me. Jadi benar-benar karena kan towards an event you work long hours, like everybody else gitu. You come home, you're too tired to talk, you're too tired to do anything with the kids, but you want to be with the kids, right? Sementara mereka perlu orang buat komunikasi. So that was quite hard, and in a way for me. Tapi for my kids, to be honest with you, I'm very proud of my kids. They understood. Karena emang saya mulai ngerjain ini kan dari mereka kecil ya. They understood what I was doing. So how do I make them understand is by getting them come to the events. They see, they like, they see the result.
So they're involved as well, yeah. So
yes, very much so, very much so. Sekarang jadinya mereka yang lebih senang pergi ke konser-konser gitu. So every concert that they go to ya mereka pergi, akhirnya I see that they appreciate the fact that we do this gitu. So those are the kind of kayak antara pekerjaan dan personal, I think some of the challenges we go through, or I go through at least.
I cannot imagine itu pasti riwahnya kayak apa. And I have a funny story. Tadi you mentioned about we have to keep up with anak-anak kekinian yang sekarang ini. Saat itu saya masih ngajar sebagai dosen anak-anak S1, and then there was something I don't know what lah lupa. And then it made me remember of, you guys know MC Hammer? And then those kids were like looking at me and like, what? And I said, you don't know those peps yang kalian pakai lagi sekarang ya? And I was like singing myself, and then they're looking at me as if I'm coming from another planet or something. Oh my God, iya betul. Memang zaman sudah berubah ya. Betul. Oh, that's good. But they're grown up now, so they're what? 18 and 21, you said?
18 and 21. And interestingly, Mbak, to be honest with you, kids nowadays juga beda banget ya. Jadi mereka ngikutin perkembangan sekarang, tapi mereka tahu kalau kita bicara musik ya. Jadi dia dengerin juga musik-musik tahun 80-an dan 70-an. Jadi beda banget sama kita. So they're quite lebih broad gitu.
Lebih diverse ya. Itu by the way udah ada yang nanya tuh, Java Jazz 2022 kapan katanya? Di chat udah ada yang nanya.
Java Jazz 2022 rencananya if all goes well,
of course, with
liburan Natal dan Tahun Baru tidak ada kenaikan. Ini kan semua kita kayak perhatiin masalah perizinan terus kan ya. Hopefully in May 2022. Tapi memang kita harus kerja sama-sama pemerintah supaya kita event tuh bisa mulai lagi, because practically the past almost 2 years tuh kita adalah salah satu industri yang diajak bicara terus tapi belum bisa bergerak. Gitu. So we're really hoping that we can start over again, karena lumayan ya yang bekerja di industri kita tuh juga jumlahnya juta. Betul. Kita pengen berharap ini bisa mulai lagi sih.
Okay, good. Hopefully too. We're all been waiting soalnya untuk itu. Fingers crossed, exactly. Nah, with this pandemic, yang kena impact, yang kena big impact kan tentunya pasti musik atau pagelaran musik, kalau dari mungkin kalau bubu.com, rupa-rupa.com justru malah naik ya. Orang justru malah lebih, they go into the internet online and then justru malah ini ya. Kalau property and Mbak Alia gimana?
Kalau aku kena hit banget ya
dengan adanya pandemi ini.
Dengan pandemi ini sih, to be honest, Tinkerlust ini kan berjualan barang-barang fashion perempuan gitu, dan barang-barangnya saya kan memang nggak terlalu mahal, maksudnya various gitu, tapi I think that's the last thing that they're looking for gitu pas pandemi gitu. No one wants to purchase fashion, nggak tahu mau kemana-mana. So even we launch waktu itu sebelum pandemi, we launch new business unit di mana itu rental gitu loh. Itu lagi peak-peaknya, tiba-tiba di pandemi ya makin lagi nggak ada orang yang pakai. So we do need to pivot juga.
Ganti piyama ya kita semua.
Ganti piyama, semuanya pengennya di rumah aja gitu lah ya. Mungkin malah beresin rumah gitu lah, gitu, pengen nata rumah gitu ya. So it was tough gitu, and keeping up the moral of the employee gitu loh, itu while keeping yourself sane aja tuh udah it's a struggle itself gitu ya saat itu. Dan we really need to think about how to make us relevant gitu, karena kita nggak bisa juga ya udah habis pandemi ini mati. So we try to create kayak interaktif kayak konten lah, atau membuat kayak kelas-kelas jadinya gitu, atau even kita create another business lagi di under Tinkerlust juga yang try to help with our source of income lah intinya gitu. So I think being an entrepreneur ya itu ya, nggak bisa cuman punya satu ide terus habis itu ya udah berharap ini berjalan. So I think even sebelum pandemi that creativity tetap harus jalan ya. Everything moves so fast gitu. Competition tuh datang tuh banyak dari segala penjuru dengan bermacam peluru lah gitu loh. Ditambah dengan pandemi gitu loh. It really put us on a stress test, dan bagaimana we're able to survive gitu loh. So right now gitu loh, we're still mulai nih membaik memang dengan ekonomi membaik juga, of course it helps the business juga ya, tapi semuanya tuh dalam keadaan apa ya, guarded gitu loh, karena apa nih apakah apalagi nih kita perlu prepare gitu. So we're hoping.
Why you actually founded Stellar?
Bener banget. Jadi sebenarnya Stellar itu udah ada tahun 2020, jadi sebelum pandemi, masih 2019 gitu awal-awalnya. Tapi it's a very small community gitu. Tapi ketika pandemi itu terjadi, there's a lot of women yang juga struggling gitu ya, itu UMKM seluruh Indonesia, they're struggling gitu loh. So we wanna empower them, and we wanna give bukan education ya, tapi kayak education kali ya, kayak bagaimana cara mereka bisa survive, gimana mereka bisa memajukan bisnisnya juga di pandemi ini, dan learn from other successful women juga gitu loh. That's why we created Stellar gitu. Dan memang surprisingly ketika kita create our first virtual event, it was really booming gitu, karena di masa pandemi ini a lot of people are ya udah pengen belajar, we wanna try something. Dan memang banyak UMKM juga yang tumbuh tuh pas pandemi gitu. There's a lot of successful business yang tumbuh tuh ketika pandemi juga, and we're really happy that we can be kayak support community ya untuk UMKM perempuan ini.
Oh, that's great ya, itu hebat banget. Justru ngambil momentumnya malah ya, karena biasanya kan kita udah di rumah, udah mati gaya gitu kan. Udah apalagi ya pesen dari rupa-rupa, udah semua dipesen ya gitu. Kalau bubu.com sendiri gimana Mbak Sinta? Ada efek yang signifikan nggak dari pandemi ini?
Kalau bubu.com kebetulan kita tuh di 2019 we turned into a venture builder, which is because we were actually a digital agency. Jadi kita memang lebih ke agency yang bantu klien-klien to go digital. But in 2019 actually we went into different businesses, so we turned ourselves into a venture builder. Kita masuk ke esports gaming, which is definitely naik pas lagi pandemi.
Oh iya, naik banget itu justru
main lagi tapi main game ya. So we have a Bubu Gaming, which is an e-sport agency. So we help brands to go into e-sport kalau ada yang mau masuk ke e-sport, karena sekarang tuh e-sport ada 120 juta gamers di Indonesia. And almost 50%
ada turnamennya juga ya kalau nggak salah ya.
Kenapa?
You host the tournament as well.
Yes, so we hosted a tournament just before the pandemic. It was in 2019 September. Because I was learning about esport in 2018 from gamers. Jadi aku nanya gitu sama gamers, and then I like, oh my God, I'm in agency and I don't know anything about gaming. While all the audience are now in gaming. So if we have 120 million gamers di Indonesia, ya pasti audiensnya udah ada di situ nih sekarang, anak-anak muda semua ada di situ. Everybody plays game, and 50%, almost 50% are women. So in 2019 we created a tournament both for men and women. Itu yang juga mungkin membedakan kita dari turnamen yang sudah ada di Indonesia. So we did a women tournament and men tournament, and what we did also differently, kita kasih prize pool yang sama untuk women and men, which is nggak pernah kejadian sebetulnya. Biasanya prize poolnya tuh pasti bedanya jauh jomplang gitu. So we wanted to give platform to the women in gaming, women in esports, karena kalau main game kan nggak perlu angkat-angkat barang, it doesn't need physical, it just need concentration, focus, being smart about it. So I think women can take it as well. So
what's the percentage of women playing games versus men?
46%. 43. Women 46%.
Wow, that's a lot.
Almost 50% are women.
Great. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yay! Itu perempuan.
And then actually, I want to thank you, Alia, karena we actually launched a women tech incubator called Super Girls in Tech, and actually Stellar Women supported us on that.
Yeah, kita ada kerjasama, bener.
Yeah, so we wanted to actually encourage women to go into technology. So ini incubatornya buat third and fourth years in university women yang mereka memang punya passion mau masuk ke teknologi on their last years of university. Kita buatin semacam incubator, a 4 months program. Dan kita kerjasama dengan UN Women, and we partner with Stellar Women and all that. So itu sih yang kita lakuin, adalah kita pengen juga membangun ekosistem buat startup, because we created a platform called startupindonesia.co. Platform ini kita buat untuk mempertemukan venture capitals dengan startups yang ada di Indonesia, dengan kita mengkurasi startup-startup yang ada di Indonesia. Dan under that we created the Super Girls in Tech Incubator.
Yes. Okay. Good, yay, senang udah ada kerjasama di sini langsung ya. Nah, sekarang kan pastinya walaupun sekarang yang nonton gak banyak, tapi kan ini it's going to be live on YouTube gitu ya. Mungkin banyak sekali potential women entrepreneurs yang wondering gitu, aduh gue sebenarnya sungguh senang melakukan ini, apapun itu, be it masak kayak anything gitu basically. Atau what would be your advice for them gitu untuk memulainya tuh bagaimana sih? Karena mungkin pasti yang mereka takutin, aduh gue gak punya uang, aduh nanti kalau gagal gimana gitu ya. All those questions pasti yang kalian juga sudah mengalaminya dan melewatinya gitu. So what would be your advice for those women yang mereka pengen melakukan sesuatu but they don't know where to start? Siapa mau mulai? Boleh Mbak Teresa? Yang mulai mikir, mulai ditanya.
Okay. I think sebenarnya mau mulai sesuatu itu gampang-gampang susah ya. Jadi apa yang I would say is to just walk gitu. Soalnya kalau kita tuh sering kebanyakan mikir sebagai I think women do that, I think. We are very risk averse. Oh kalau begini gimana? Jadi I think maybe our imagination is a bit big juga. Jadi what if? There's a lot of what if scenarios gitu ya, yang justru itu menghambat kita untuk berjalan. Nah jadi just jalan gitu. I think
just do it ya.
Just do it.
Kita jadi Nike aja ya.
Start talking to people. Start I don't know if you want to cari kalau misalnya if it's in culinary, who's your idols in culinary gitu. Sekarang gampang banget untuk DM your idol on Instagram or LinkedIn or whoever gitu. Just do something a little bit every day and tap to your friends, alumni, cousins, long time. Jadi I think apa yang menghambat kita tuh biasanya our own ego. Just have that confidence to start, just walk gitu, muka tebal. That usually gets you somewhere.
Okay, good. Betul. Just do it ya. Nggak usah terlalu banyak mikir, karena nggak mulai-mulai ya. Kalau dari yang lain mungkin ada masukan lain mungkin? Imelda, Mbak Imelda?
Mungkin ini kali ya. Aku bacain ada satu kemarin aku sempat baca. I think entrepreneurship is like throwing yourself off a cliff and just trying to assemble your plane on your way down.
Saya kira bagi jumping gitu, assemble your plane on the way down.
I think entrepreneurship is just if you have the idea and then you see the market is there and you really want to tap into the market and you are convinced with your idea, I think you should just go ahead and do it. Karena problems will come, but I think if you are strong enough and you always have you think like, how do I get the solution for this? Selalu ada jalan keluar. Jadi mungkin itu kali ya. Jadi kalau misalnya mau mengerjakan sesuatu, menurut aku sih, I think the more sometimes you don't know things is also good in a way. Karena waktu aku masuk ke properti pun, I don't have any background in property at all. Gitu. So I'm not, jadinya nggak terstruktur atau dikotak-kotakan, oh you have to do this, you have to do that gitu. So you are more like, you're more you as an apa, value added dari si produknya itu sendiri.
Perspektifnya justru malah jadi berbeda dan perspektif baru ya.
Dan asal kita tahu the market there gitu. So I think you should just go ahead and do it, karena ya itu, cewek kebanyakan mikir akhirnya nggak jadi.
Mbak Sinta juga bilang nih, stop thinking, start creating and executing.
That's right.
Ya kan? Just do it gitu. Mbak Alia sama Mbak Dewi ada tambahan mungkin untuk yang ini?
Iya sih, just do it. Mungkin banyak juga, aku soalnya sering gitu dapat pertanyaan, gimana kalau mau mulai. So different type of entrepreneurship startup itu kan nggak semuanya harus the next Google gitu, the next Facebook gitu loh. Okay, it's good you get there misalnya sampai sana, tapi I think you need to start somewhere gitu loh. You don't have to kayak muluk-muluk juga gitu loh. If you really wanna do it, you believe in something. Well, do a trial, does it work atau enggak gitu, ada konsumernya atau enggak gitu, dan from there it'll grow gitu, karena ya tadi Emily juga bilang ya, nanti juga di tengah-tengah akan ada problems lagi, mau gede mau kecil semuanya akan ada problems, tapi mungkin yang bikin jiwa entrepreneurship itu berbeda gitu sama, which is there's no right or wrong or jelek atau bagus gitu ya, because I've been bukan entrepreneur terus sekarang jadi entrepreneur, tapi yang bikin beda banget tuh adalah you need to be really consistent and persistent juga gitu on what you're doing gitu, karena ya itu emang bener kayak didorongin di mana jatuh terus nggak tahu sebenarnya mau ngapain, ya udah nggak ada yang bisa bantuin juga, only yourself kan.
If that was me, I would just pray.
Iya, pray gitu, karena pray doesn't even help gitu. Udah berdoa gitu nggak ngebantu juga, karena ya beda gitu. If you work in a corporate, I work ya itu tadi di multinational company yang there's structures gitu loh, kayak ya udah baca SOP-nya aja, tanya bos, tanya ini, apalagi ada global gitu loh, ada bos di global, you can ask gitu. Kalau being an entrepreneur, especially you're a leader gitu, you're a founder, ya you need to figure it out yourself, you need to create your structure, dan there's always kayak akan ada isunya gitu. Tapi if you're persistent, you're consistent gitu loh, ya nggak easily give up, ya itu you're shaping yourself to be a survivor gitu, a warrior juga gitu. So being an entrepreneur is not about just the business itself, is also how you grow as a person sih aku bilang.
Oke. Ini ada satu pertanyaan nih. From Giffy, Go Play 2. Okay. Untuk Mbak Dewi Gonta, do you think that technology can solve the problem of events like Java Jazz through using virtual solution or maybe metaverse or hologram? Oh, interesting. Gimana Mbak? Have you thought of that? Masalahnya kan pandemi ini kita nggak pernah tahu nih ya kapan berakhirnya. Let's just hope it ends soon. Tapi with December coming, biasanya kita getar-getir lagi kan? Nah, pernah kepikiran nggak untuk use technology to solve that so that it can still run as scheduled?
Ini kita bicara dari sisi show-nya ya. So virtual shows have been done. Bahkan di tahun 2020 akhir sampai 2020 pertengahan lah ya. Up until a few months ago tuh everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it, came to a point yang akhirnya menjadi anti klimaks kalau untuk di Indonesia menurut saya. Because everybody was just doing it gitu. Apakah dia akan menjadi solusi untuk sebuah event yang sifatnya offline? Kalau buat saya tidak. Why is doing offline important for most of us? So if you do an online event, misalnya kita mempekerjakan 100 orang, pada saat saya mengerjakannya offline, yang bekerja itu bisa sampai 10.000 orang at for duration of 3 days, mind you. So for me, doing offline is very important gitu. Tapi kalau pertanyaannya teknologi in general, apakah bisa menjadi solusi? Bisa. Kenapa menjadi solusi? Karena kan banyak sekarang prosedur-prosedur yang harus kita implementasikan terkait persiapan event boleh berjalan lagi. Dan semua itu harus menggunakan teknologi karena kita harus bicara dengan banyak pihak ya secara teknologi gitu. I'm not gonna go into it nih karena teman-teman yang lain kan lebih bidangnya teknologi ya. Cuman memang di kita itu we do have our own ticketing system in a way that the ticketing system has to be kalau dulu kan kita contoh paling mudah satu orang bisa beli 4 tiket yang masuk satu nama. Going forward itu udah nggak bisa lagi. Kenapa? Karena kan dia harus masukin bukti vaksin, harus masukin bukti testing and all this stuff. Bahkan in the venue, kalau misalnya kapasitas kita masih harus dibatasi, we need to use technology in order to do so. Menghitung keluar dan masuk karena kita nggak bisa manual kan ya gitu. So technology itu kan it varies. Jadi kalau bicara hologram di dalam show itu udah lama dikerjakan, it's nothing new gitu. Sehingga teknologi yang kita bisa aplikasikan adalah untuk kedepannya itu. Tapi I have to fight that we need to go back to doing offline events karena in the States and in Europe people have gone back into doing that. Dengan menerapkan prosedur-prosedur. Jadi sekarang kita tinggal tunggu sebenarnya aturan pemerintahnya cara bermainnya lagi bagaimana gitu. So that people can go back to work.
Betul sih. Feel-nya juga berbeda ya. Kalau going to a concert virtually and offline is very different.
Interaksinya nggak ada. If you do offline, as much as you put everybody's face on screen, the interaction is not there. You don't feel people singing along with you. I mean, it's just different.
It's a different experience altogether. Okay. Nah, while we're talking about technology, kira-kira sementara kita kan ceritanya lagi mau bantu untuk memberdayakan perempuan Indonesia nih. A lot of you are doing trainings, a lot of you are doing consultation untuk membantu para atau kalau Mbak Sinta bilang mungkin ekosistemnya entrepreneurs supaya bisa terbangun gitu di Indonesia. Cara apa kira-kira yang menurut teman-teman paling yang perlu dilakukan untuk terutama yang wanita-wanita ini gitu kan, mereka kadang-kadang masih takut, ada banyak sekali dari mereka yang mungkin masih belum melek teknologi gitu, mungkin the most of technology that they have seen probably is handphone gitu kan. Bagaimana kira-kira caranya untuk supaya teman-teman di sini bisa membantu mereka untuk bisa lebih user friendly lah, dengan lebih bersahabat lah dengan teknologi ini. Mbak Sinta mungkin you want to share something?
Actually teknologi kan kalau misalnya kita memang mulainya di mobile phone, di HP, we should just start using that. Yang paling gampang adalah saya pakai WhatsApp. Because like with WhatsApp, you can create a group, and then when you create a group, you can actually have your audience, and then you can can start selling something. It's as easy as simple as that sih sebetulnya. Karena sekarang juga banyak sekali e-commerce company yang actually mereka they call it social commerce, yang mereka juga mengandalkan the community ya. So creating your community, that's one thing, because you have your audience. Jadi kita mulai yang simple aja lah, pakai WhatsApp dulu gitu. Then you go to next level adalah Instagram, misalnya untuk jualan. So try to be very simple aja dulu.
Terus bagaimana caranya untuk supaya mereka nggak takut dulu gitu ke situ? Apakah ya? Tapi most of them mungkin juga sekarang sudah mulai pakai WhatsApp ya. Even my mom, 81 years old, she uses WhatsApp untuk jualan kristal dia yang udah lama.
Oh, wow.
And then dia biasa lah ya, udah oma-oma, type-nya suka typo lah, apalah. And then I said, selama jangan salah harga ya, itu penting gitu. Ya, that's true ya. WhatsApp is quite friendly ya, sehingga almost everybody can actually start doing it gitu. Okay, alright. Nah, kita ada satu question lagi dari Ruli GoPlay 3 untuk Mbak Alia dan Mbak Teresa. What will you do in 20 years when your children inherit the business? Silahkan, siapa duluan? Mbak Teresa mau mulai duluan? Kata Mbak Teresa, gue belum mikir anak gitu ya. Dirimu sudah beranak atau belum sih Mbak?
Udah ada 2.
Sekarang sudah lagi, 2, buntutnya masih muda banget mukanya soalnya.
Sekarang baru mikirin mau disekolahin apa enggak ya. Soalnya sekarang lagi homeschooling gara-gara COVID. I pulled them out from school.
So 20 years from now, so they'll be 20 something.
Actually, I would do what my parents do, ya. Jadi dari awal sebenarnya kita nggak di-expect untuk join the company, maksudnya nggak diharuskan gitu ya. They do their brainwash now and then, kayak setiap kali liburan tuh saya harus di kantor. Nggak tahu ngapain kan di kantor, duduk aja gitu di meja, terus bengong-bengong dengerin meeting yang saya juga nggak ngerti, but I have to do that dulu. Terus liburan, ya, atau kalau waktu itu udah ada E1R, di awal-awal banget saya yang nempelin stiker, ada diskon, baca dari Excel, diskon yang mana, tempelin manual. Ya, tapi I would give the same experience to my kids, expose them to what I do, tapi I would actually encourage them to go outside my wings, gitu. I'm just a fallback if there is a fallback, gitu ya. Tapi I would want them to explore themselves what they can do and not expect me to provide for them.
Ya, syukur-syukur kalau mereka ternyata berminat untuk join the company.
Ya, actually saya juga nggak berpikir kalau misalnya mereka niat boleh, enggak ya boleh gitu ya. Jadi because I don't want to give them the pressure of having to malah justru berpikiran sempit bahwa oke, saya nanti pulang saya mau melakukan ini. Tapi syukur-syukur if they want to do it and they are capable to expand it, and so that's good gitu, karena mereka bisa mendapat ya sebuah batu loncatan gitu ke sana ya. Tapi ya kalau misalnya mereka niatnya di tempat lain ya go ahead gitu. I can tell that ya.
Ya. Niatnya ternyata super Java Jazz. Tapi anak-anak
boleh kontak anti Dewi.
Kalau Mbak Alia, oke. 20 tahun.
Aku bayang ya, anak aku ya masih kecil juga ya, ada kelas 3 SD sama 6 SD, terus dua-duanya kalau ditanya mau jadi apa, yang satu mau jadi gamer, yang satu mau jadi artis gitu kayaknya. Nggak ada yang tertarik gitu.
Sangat banget ya.
Dia merasa apa sih ini ibu kerjanya gitu loh. Cuman aku setuju banget tadi sama Mbak Teresa gitu. Aku mungkin work ethicnya yang mungkin aku pengen expose ke anak-anak aku gitu loh. Nothing is taken for granted juga gitu loh. Misalnya pun mereka udah ada ketertarikan untuk bekerja, karena baik di any business pasti banyak divisi-divisinya yang lain gitu loh. Jadi they can get exposed misalnya di bagian teknologinya, kalau memang ada ketertarikan teknologi, marketing or anything gitu. There's so many division that they can learn gitu. Tapi ya itu aku setuju banget juga tadi sama Mbak Teresa. I'm nggak mungkin gitu kayak harus nanti ini di sini itu nggak mungkin, tapi kalau memang mereka ada ketertarikan dan they have something that they can bring and they can really kayak make it better than when I started gitu ya, aku kayak benar-benar terbuka untuk hal itu. Tapi memang yang another thing yang aku setuju juga itu adalah I want them to bring something dari luar juga. I want them to explore, belajar dari orang lain gitu loh. Karena I think yang aku rasain gitu loh, setelah aku bekerja dulu gitu loh, punya pengalaman, mempunyai ya jatuh apa ya dari bawah banget, I can understand what's a good leader itu seperti apa sih gitu loh. How to create a structure itu seperti apa gitu loh. Jadinya untuk anak-anak aku tuh juga gitu. I want them to explore as many kayak industry, as many experience that they can, dan nanti ujung-ujungnya baru mereka bisa decide gitu loh, kalau misalnya mau masuk ke tempat aku mau nerusin apa yang mereka bisa bawa, atau mereka mau create something, yang penting mereka bisa bisa berguna sih kalau aku bilangnya untuk bangsa.
Ya. Nah, ngomong-ngomong berguna untuk bangsa, what will be your hopes? Nah, ini a question that I will ask for every one of you. What will be your hope for Indonesia, for women entrepreneurs in Indonesia gitu ya? Kira-kira kedepannya tuh hope-nya seperti apa sih? Mungkin bisa dari Mbak Dewi. Pemerintah biar cepat peraturannya keluar untuk bisa jam just lagi, salah ya?
Oh, kalau itu udah pasti. Itu udah harapan kita kayak the past 2 years. Yes. I think, based on the research I've done, just, a bit kan memang gap between men and male and female itu in terms of wage itu juga masih beda banget di Indonesia or everywhere else in the world. Bagaimana cara kita bisa berubah itu adalah dengan memperbaiki kita dari sisi perempuan ya. Kita harus menganggap bahwa kita adalah setara gitu. So my wish, I think, is for if you were to go to school abroad, come back, bring in your knowledge, in that way kita bisa menyetarakan gitu kan ya, antara perempuan dengan laki-laki at some point. We work as hard, we think as hard. Itu kayak harapan kedepannya harus itu sih. But for Java Jazz, obviously I'm waiting for my permit to come out. So yeah, there you go.
we sure hope so too. Okay, thank you, Mbak Dewi. Kalau Mbak Imel? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think kebetulan saya tuh cukup aktif juga dengan NGO untuk bisa bergerak. We're having a campaign, 1,000 girls actually. So we're gonna try to put more girls into school. It's funny that sekarang ini kalau kita di Jakarta, we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about how we're gonna build and shape Indonesia gitu sebagai perempuan. Sedangkan kalau di daerah-daerah banyak sekali perempuan yang masih struggle just to find the rights to go to school. And just find the rights, mereka itu nggak dinikahi dini oleh keluarganya, di mana mereka memang mungkin kesulitan secara ekonomi gitu, dan akhirnya perempuan masih menjadi quote-unquote komoditi ya untuk bisa melunasi utang dari keluarga gitu. Jadi so we are working really hard now to do that campaign gitu. So I think that's one of the hope I have for Indonesia gitu, is equal rights, equal opportunity for the future of for the girls actually ya, karena aku punya 2 anak perempuan, 1 anak laki-laki gitu. So I do hope mereka bisa nanti juga berguna untuk bisa shape masa depan dari bangsa ini. And I think that's also the reason why I work gitu, karena I want my work to be a contribution juga sih. So basically I hope we can get more girls into school, especially the ones basically yang masih out of touch and they don't have any voice.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yay. Thank you, Mbak Imel. Mbak Shinta, what will be your hope for this country?
Yeah, my hope is more women are open to technology. Yeah, because I think when you're doing business nowadays, it's like if you don't include technology,
you're gonna be dead.
Yeah, it's gonna slow you down in the beginning, and then you're gonna die probably. So harus melek teknologi sih siapapun, especially women, karena dengan adanya teknologi bisa bantu kita untuk kerja juga dari rumah, dari manapun ya. So hopefully more women are aware and want to be involved in technology.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mbak Shinta. Mbak Teresa.
Mungkin my wish is the same or similar to Mbak Imelda di sini. I do think that looking at my company, kita tuh women leadership in leadership positions itu banyak sekali. Jadi our CTO, kawan lama CTO is a woman. Yang head kawan lama industrial is a woman gitu ya, and they're not family related ya, jadi they're professionals. Jadi having women leaders itu justru membangkitkan rasa for women that they can aspire to go to all the way to the top, bukan cuman kerja hanya untuk ya udah dapat gaji bulanan because to support the family, pokoknya yang stable income is the women deh gitu ya. Tapi justru itu yang menginspirasi mereka. Nah, and it all starts from education. Like Mbak Imelda juga bilang ya, women, I think we're still living in a society yang dimana boys are seen as a better investment than girls in terms of education. And the chances, jadi chances for them to go to school, chances to be ikut apa gitu, always preference-nya to the boys. Nah, jadi we hope that Indonesia will change that.
Yeah, hopefully ya. Okay, thank you Mbak Teresa. Mbak Alia, your next.
Wish-nya sebenarnya tadi udah banyak disebutin juga sama teman-teman di sini, tapi mungkin wish aku sebenarnya banyak gitu perempuan yang udah pengen berkarya menjadi leaders gitu, tapi mungkin memang culture-nya kita juga yang memandang wanita itu harusnya menjadi ibu dulu, istri dulu gitu ya. Kayaknya I wanna see Indonesia tuh juga ngelihat ya, laki perempuan we can do it all juga kok gitu. It's not about memilih gitu ya, kita mau berkeluarga atau mau bekerja, sama kok gitu loh, bisa kok gitu loh. Laki-laki pun juga bisa seperti itu gitu, bisa bekerja, bisa berkeluarga juga. So I wish gitu in terms of kayak support itu gitu dari keluarga, dari sekeliling ini tuh juga makin aware kalau women can do it all juga kok gitu. Kedua sih ya wish aku juga untuk teman-teman yang memang sekolah di luar atau ngirim anaknya keluar, bener deh kalau udah selesai lulus balik ke Indonesia karena you really need to contribute juga gitu loh. You study abroad and you bring the knowledge and kayak grow it gitu loh di sini.
Ya, betul banget ya. Karena anak-anak itu, yang saya juga bilang sama anak saya gitu ya, kalian cari ilmu banyak-banyak di luar. Kalau boleh kerja dulu sebentar di luar, hanya just so that they can have a comparison gitu loh. Work ethicnya seperti apa. And then here work kadang-kadang serba salah ya. Mau work for big companies or work for small companies, both have good sides and bad sides gitu kan. If you work for big companies, yes you get the name, but what you do is basically this much. Gitu kan, ya udah sehari-hari segini terus gitu. Tapi if you work for a small medium companies, you get to learn a lot of things gitu ya. Tapi the structure you can get it from big companies gitu. Okay, yay! So it's almost 5 already. Mbak Karlam, apakah masih ada pertanyaan? Mumpung waktunya masih ada. Jika tidak ada, oke, bisa di close. Oke, baik kalau gitu teman-teman, terima kasih banyak. Thank you so much for all the tips and tricks and inspirations yang kalian sudah sampaikan. Kalau saya boleh rangkumkan sedikit aja, mungkin lebih kepada start with something that you're most passionate about. Have a purpose on what you do so that it gives meaning, karena to be an entrepreneur tentu ada ups and down, dan banyak sekali ups and down-nya, akan begini-begini terus seperti roller coaster. So if you don't do it with your passion, then the commitment will fall, sehingga you have to be persistent and consistent in doing whatever you do. Be brave ya. Just do it, nggak usah overthink. Sometimes your what if does not even happen, gitu kan? Kita udah habis energinya mikirin what if, but ternyata nggak kejadian juga. So basically just do it. Maintain your network ya, karena kebetulan juga kalau kita bicara tentang alumnas, we have the privilege mempunyai mungkin network yang lebih luas. So maintain your good network, good relationship with your network, because kita nggak bisa bekerja sendiri. At the end of the day, we need to partner with whatever, apapun yang kita lakukan gitu ya. We do in partnership. And then apa tadi lagi ya? Dream big mungkin and start small gitu kali ya. Just start from small things is okay, but you can also dream big. It's fine gitu. So ada lagi yang mau kasih masukan atau tambahan mungkin? Or is that enough? Yeah, that's enough. Okay. So thank you so much for all your time. 1,5 jam atau hampir 2 jam ini kita bicara. Mudah-mudahan bisa memberikan manfaat untuk teman-teman yang juga nonton, yang mungkin lagi berpikir untuk trying to quit from whatever they're doing now and then trying to open their own business. Mudah-mudahan kita bisa memberikan pecutan sedikit sehingga mereka lebih termotivasi dan berani untuk memulai bisnisnya sendiri. Oke, stay healthy semuanya. Terima kasih banyak sekali lagi untuk para panelis kita, dan mudah-mudahan kita bisa jumpa lagi di lain kesempatan dan pandemi segera berakhir ya. Kita jumpa di Java Jazz gitu. Mei 2022 ya. Oke, saya kembalikan kepada host Mbak Alin. Silahkan Mbak Alin.
Terima kasih Anita, sungguh sebuah sesi yang sangat menarik dan membuka mata dan sangat menginspirasi. Let's take a moment to thank our panelists and also our wonderful moderator for that eye-opening session.